Now it's just hell. It's hell.
They called him the Silent Assassin, a man who spoke softly but rode like the mountain owed him an apology. No trash talk or drama, just cold precision on the most punishing terrain in the world. For a sport built on chaos, where machines overheat and men break, this one rider made it all look like slow motion. That rider was Graham Jarvis. For nearly 40 years, he's been defying logic, physics, and the limits of pain. Where others chased glory, he chased control, and somehow, that's the thing that made him unstoppable. Born on April 21st, 1975 in the rolling countryside of Ripon, North Yorkshire, Jarvis didn't grow up with fame or sponsorships waiting for him. He grew up surrounded by farmland, silence, and enough open space to start trouble with a bike. That's where it started, in the backyard of his family home, with chickens at the bottom of the garden and a makeshift obstacle course built from whatever he could find.
No. And I used to have chickens at the bottom of the garden, and he used to ride down a garden path and jump straight up on top of the chicken house with his Monty bike, turn around and come back out again.
His parents tell stories that sound like the early chapters of a legend no one knew was being written. He'd ride up and down a narrow garden path, launching off whatever he could find. Anything that looked like a ramp became one. He wasn't chasing trophies, he was chasing balance, his obsession from the start. His father remembers him wearing out a brand new bicycle tire in a single week. The local bike shop owner couldn't believe it.
I got him a brand new tyre and he'd worn it out in a week. And I used to go down, is it Trev's cycles?
Yeah, Trev, yeah.
I used to go down there and I said, well, he's worn it out, Trev. No, I don't believe that, he said. I said, well.
He wasn't being reckless, he was teaching himself precision, experimenting with traction, learning how far the limit could stretch before it snapped. And that understanding of grip, balance, and instinct would later become his trademark. Before he was old enough to drive, Jarvis was already mastering the art of two-wheel control. He joined local youth trials events, where balance mattered more than speed. Trials riding demands something most riders hate: patience. It's about creeping over rocks, balancing on edges, controlling throttle and clutch with microscopic accuracy. One mistake, and you're done. Jarvis didn't just ride, he studied. Every obstacle became a puzzle. Every failed attempt is a clue. By his teens, people were starting to notice, not because he was loud or showy, but because he was good. So good that Roy Francis Motorcycles, a local shop, decided to sponsor him.
The only bike that I ever brought, and since then, he's been sponsored by Roy Francis in Paul Smart's Motorcycles. And as I said, I went to try the little Honda 50, and Roy said, well, you can have them if he likes it, I'll sponsor him for the year. And Roy more or less sponsored him all the time after that.
And that was just because of some of the events that he'd been at, was it? It was some of the trial of it.
Somebody saw him riding and he said he's going to be good in the future.
That was the first major turning point. It wasn't a full factory deal, but it was validation. Proof that this quiet kid could go somewhere if he stuck with it. He started climbing through the national ranks fast. He joined the Kent Youth Club, rode local and regional events, and by the time most kids his age were still figuring out homework, Graham was already riding against adults. And winning. Even back then, he wasn't about flash, he was about mastery, for being the rider who could keep his bike upright when everyone else was falling apart. That patience and control made him deadly in trials, and the results started piling up. He won his first British Trials Championship in 1998, then went on to win it 5 times in total. He also dominated some of the toughest events in sports history, the Scottish 6 Days Trial 4 times and the legendary Scott Trial 9 times. No one has ever beaten that record.
So it cost me a fortune in the end. And I can remember going to do the Scott trial, and the first time we didn't know anything about the Scott and what have you. And I think Graham finished about 7th or 8th then. And I can remember standing behind Mark Lampkin and he was saying to somebody, and they said, how do you reckon Jarvis will do? And he said, he won't do very good here, he said. They go round the rocks here, he said, and we go over them.
Yeah.
But it proved him wrong in the end, because Graham actually, I don't know whether you know.
It's 4 times, wasn't he?
9.
9,
He beat Sammy Miller was the record holder, 8 times he won it. And Graham actually still holds it now. He's won it 9 times. Malcolm Rathmore won it 4 times.
By the late 90s, Jarvis was already a household name among trials fans. He had the respect of the paddock, a fan base that admired his technique and the quiet intensity that set him apart. But despite the trophies and the recognition, something was missing. Trials were technical and disciplined, but it wasn't madness. And Jarvis, he was starting to crave something wilder. The transition didn't happen overnight. At first, he just wanted to challenge himself in new ways. He entered a few enduro races, long, punishing events that mixed terrain, weather, and exhaustion into one brutal test. It wasn't polished or predictable, and that's what hooked him. It wasn't just judges scoring precision anymore. It was survival and adapting in real time. Enduro wasn't about control, it was about mastering the madness. That shift would change his entire career. When Jarvis made the move from trials to enduro in the early 2000s, most people doubted him. They thought his trials background wouldn't translate. They said he didn't have the speed, the aggression, or the physical size to keep up with the hardcore riders who dominated the discipline. They were wrong. He took everything he'd learned from trials, balance, traction control, throttle timing, and applied it to terrain that destroyed most riders. Suddenly, the impossible climbs didn't seem impossible anymore. Jarvis wasn't just competing, he was redefining how to ride hard enduro. In 2005, he made his full transition into the sport, and almost immediately, he started doing what he'd always done best: winning. He began stacking victories at events that chewed up even seasoned pros.
When you look back at your early days riding, did you ever imagine that hard enduro will grow into the sport that it is today?
My early days riding, there was no hard enduro. I've seen the sport from the very beginning. Yeah, the size of the sport, the number of riders, the bikes developing, crazy.
Erzberg Rodeo, Hell's Gate, Sea to Sky, and Red Bull Romaniacs. Romaniacs in particular became his arena. He won it 7 times, more than any rider in history. He didn't just win, he dominated with finesse that made the brutal Romanian mountains look like a playground. That's when the nickname stuck, the Silent Assassin. He wasn't loud, he didn't talk trash, he just showed up, destroyed everyone's expectations, and left quietly with another trophy. What made his story even more remarkable was how he did it. In his first Red Bull Romaniacs win, Jarvis showed up alone. No team, mechanics, or entourage, just him, his Sherco 254-stroke, and the will to survive. Every night after racing through some of the toughest trails on Earth, he'd go back to his setup, service his bike, and prepare it for the next day. He didn't complain, he just worked, and it paid off. He won the entire event. By 2022, he'd done it again, this time as a privateer, creating the Jarvis racing team and winning his 7th Romaniacs title, making history as the event's oldest champion.
What does Red Bull Romaniacs mean to you personally?
Just a lot of memories. Obviously 2008 was the first year. I've seen the event grow and a lot of memories, good and bad, but it's helped me make a name in enduro. It was one of the first races I won, so a lot to be grateful for.
What makes Jarvis' story stand out isn't just the titles, it's how he carried himself through all of it. A craftsman obsessed with the feel of the bike, the terrain, and the challenge. Even when the injuries came, and there were many, he refused to quit. Broken bones, torn ligaments, mechanical failures. He treated each one as just part of the game. You never saw him melt down or blame the bike. He'd just pick the bike up, restart, and carry on. That's where his legend grew. Not from dominance alone, but from composure under punishment.
Keep on top of the injuries. But the hardest thing's the recovery. You've just got to, as you get older, I think it's hard to do back-to-back days, to go flat out every day. You've got to rest up sometimes and plan the training a bit more.
Yeah.
Off the track though, Jarvis became something unexpected, a social media phenomenon. During lockdown, when most athletes went quiet, Jarvis turned his backyard into a training ground. He uploaded clips of himself hopping his bike over garden furniture, wheeling through tight spaces, and eventually falling through his shed roof. The internet loved it. Overnight, he became the shed guy. Millions watched those clips, not just because they were funny, but because they showed a world champion having fun again. That's when the Garden Shed Killer nickname started circulating online.
That's Graham Jarvis. Now, I think it's fair to say, Graham, you're probably most famous for jumping your motorbike on a shed. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Forget winning races, I'm just the guy that fell through the shed.
So did he want to destroy that shed? Was that the plan?
Yeah, I was weighing it up. We'd done a few videos and you've got to take it to the next level, haven't you? So I thought there might have been half a chance the shed would hold up, but I don't think it had much of a chance.
But behind the humor was a message. This guy loves riding, no matter where or when. By the time he hit 1 million followers on Instagram, Jarvis had done something few riders ever managed. He'd bridged the gap between hardcore fans and casual viewers. People who didn't even know what hard enduro was started following him because his riding was pure and his personality was real. He didn't chase trends, he just rode bikes. That down-to-earth nature became a big part of his appeal. Fans admired not just his dominance, but his humility. He spoke softly, laughed easily, and never acted like a celebrity. His career by then had spanned nearly 5 decades, and yet he was still competing with riders half his age, and often beating them. They called him the old man in the paddock, but no one laughed once the flag dropped. That combination of humility and competitiveness made him one of the most respected figures in all of motorcycling. The early 2000s changed everything for Graham Jarvis. He'd gone from trials champion to enduro hopeful, but the leap wasn't smooth. Enduro wasn't a sport that rewarded finesse alone. It punished weakness, fatigue, and hesitation. And in those first years, Jarvis learned how far toughness could stretch before it broke. He rode races that chewed through bikes and bodies. Injuries became routine. Even surgery couldn't keep him away for long. If he could grip the handlebars, he'd race. During one event, doctors told him he'd need months to heal, but he came back in weeks. For Jarvis, pain wasn't a barrier. It was just part of the ride. But it wasn't just his resilience that made people stop and stare. It was his calm. Where other riders fought the terrain, Jarvis seemed to read it. He'd stop, glance up the hill, and glide through sections that left everyone else stuck. It looked effortless, but it wasn't luck. It was decades of trials, instincts honed to perfection. His balance, throttle control, and vision changed how people rode hard enduro. You could see it in the next generation. Every rider who learned to Jarvis hop a boulder or thread a bike through rocks owed something to him. Each win came against stacked fields. Younger, hungrier riders who couldn't match his precision. He wasn't the fastest off the line, but he finished when others couldn't, and that was the difference. There's a famous clip from Erzberg, one of those climbs that looked impossible. Dozens of riders failed, one after another. Jarvis approached, paused for a second, adjusted his line, and floated over it like gravity forgot to apply. The crowd went silent. Then, they erupted. That was the moment fans realized they weren't just watching another racer. They were watching the best technical rider the sport had ever seen. Even as his fame grew, Jarvis stayed rooted in simplicity, but he also knew his career had to evolve. He couldn't ride forever, so he built something that would. He created Jarvis Racing, a team focused on helping young riders bridge the gap between amateur and factory levels, a step he never had when starting out.
Can beginners or mid-level riders also benefit from the Jarvis experience?
We cater for the higher level, professionals almost, but also beginners, amateurs, whatever level you're at, you can have a good experience.
He also launched Jarvis Signature Tours, riding schools and adventures in countries like Spain, Turkey, Wales, and Panama.
Or what inspired you to start the Jarvis Signature Tours?
Well, firstly in Spain, just sunshine, good riding, and I want to give people the opportunity to come here, ride whatever level they're at, learn some new skills.
The goal was simple: give riders a taste of real hard enduro and teach them the skills to survive it. He didn't just lend his name, he was out there riding with them. His tours became legendary, part coaching, part challenge, part adventure. Riders of every level showed up, hoping to learn from the man who'd conquered the unconquerable. Even as an instructor, Jarvis didn't change his tone. No motivational speeches, no cliches, just quiet advice, precise feedback, and demonstrations that made everything look easier than it was. He'd say little, ride a section, and leave students wondering how he made it look so simple. His philosophy stayed the same: ride smart, stay calm, let the bike do the work.
You're competing at the highest level. How do you translate that into guiding and into teaching?
Obviously some things I just do naturally, but take it back to basics, get the controls, the fundamentals, using suspension, and then progress from there, get the good steady progression.
Still, even legends face limits. Injuries began stacking up. Recovery took longer. He admitted that back-to-back racing days were harder, but instead of hiding it, he adapted. He trained smarter, ate cleaner, and adjusted his schedule. He talked about cutting down on red meat and junk food, training 3 or 4 times a week, and taking recovery seriously, something he'd ignored in his younger years. He wasn't chasing eternal youth. He was maintaining performance.
I was getting a little bit of a belly, so I had to change something. It wasn't good. I had to breathe in for all the photos. So We had to change we had to change the diet a little bit before it got out of control. So yeah, I kind of eat a little bit less red meat and stuff, and more just try and stay healthy, stay off the desserts and the junk food. But the training, I've got to train hard 3 or 4 times a week riding, and then I do a little bit of physical training.
That discipline kept him competitive well into his 40s. By this point, Jarvis wasn't racing for validation. He was racing to stay connected to the sport that built him. He joked that his career was running in reverse, starting with trials, then extreme enduro, maybe ending one day back on a trials bike. But for now, he was still the man to beat. He spoke about helping his younger riders reach the podium again, carrying the Jarvis name forward through them. He wanted to keep racing even when he wasn't winning, just for the thrill. That honesty resonated with the fans. The respect he earned in the paddock was universal. Competitors called him the professor, studying his every move.
When people come up to you and say they started riding because of you, how does that feel?
Yeah, it's just cool to think that I've been part of growing the sport. People just love the sport. They say it's changed their life just taking up the sport, because they meet, all the people are nice and they see different places in the world, and so it's pretty cool.
Newcomers asked for photos, advice, and sometimes a quick lesson on his technique. He never refused. And when the race was over, he was always last to the bar, a Yorkshire habit he liked to joke about. Graham Jarvis didn't just win races. He changed how people approached them. He turned a niche, brutal sport into a global spectacle, and did it without noise, arrogance, or theatrics. He became proof that mastery doesn't shout. It whispers, and everyone listens. Even after all the wins, Graham Jarvis never acted like a superstar. He never bragged about being the greatest. He just kept proving it. You could see it in his mindset. When asked about the future, he never talked about retirement. He talked about riding. As long as he could get on a bike, he said he'd keep racing. Even if he wasn't winning. It wasn't about trophies anymore. It was about the feeling. He often said that riding kept him alive. The focus, the challenge, it gave him purpose. Even as the sport evolved, Jarvis stayed relevant because his skill didn't depend on strength or speed. It depended on intelligence. Younger riders might be faster, but few were smarter. They studied his line choices, his calm under pressure, and his ability to find grip where no one else could. That was his gift, understanding terrain better than everyone else. In a world of noise, he mastered silence. His story wasn't just about victories, from riding through his garden as a kid to winning world titles alone in the mountains of Romania. The path was long, rough, and honest. Today, when fans watch highlights of Erzberg climbs or Romaniac's battles, they still look for him. The man in the gray helmet, eyes locked ahead, moving like the terrain doesn't scare him. That's Graham Jarvis, the best when it mattered most. Through Jarvis Racing, Jarvis Signature Tours, and his growing global community, his influence continues. He turned experience into opportunity, giving others what he never had at the start, and that's what defines him now. The rider who once raced alone in the hills of Romania now leads a generation of riders across the world. He's 50, still competing, teaching, and still smiling. He jokes about age, aches, and diet, but underneath it all, the drive hasn't changed. He rides because he loves it. That's the simplest truth about Graham Jarvis. No sponsors made him. No marketing built his name. He earned every title the hard way, with grit, patience, and the kind of quiet confidence that never fades. Think you know tough motorcycle races? You have no idea. In 2015, only 5 riders finished out of 500. 5. That's how brutal this race is. The mountain defeated doctors, lawyers, factory stars, and world champions. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a legend. It only respects pure, unadulterated will. This is the race where winners help their rivals up impossible climbs, where the prize isn't a check, but a piece of rock, and where, every year, thousands of people travel to a small Austrian town just to witness the spectacle of human struggle. This is the story of the Erzberg Rodeo, a race that was never supposed to be possible. Our story starts not with a corporate plan, but with a man and his motorcycle. His name is Karl Katok. In 1994, he was just an Austrian municipal officer who loved to ride. He found himself exploring the brutal, beautiful terrain of the Erzberg, the Iron Mountain. For decades, this place had been mined for its iron ore. The landscape was littered with the scars of that work: sheer cliffs, snaking gravel roads, and vast fields of giant boulders left behind like a natural obstacle course. As Karl Katok rode through this stunning scenery, an idea sparked. What if he created a race here? A true test for the world's best off-road riders. He wanted to present them with, in his own words, an unsolvable task. So in 1995, he did it. The first Erzberg Rodeo. It was a modest affair by today's standards. 120 riders showed up. They came from all over, drawn by the simple, heartfelt goal Karl had for them. He just wanted everyone to have a good time. That first winner was a rider from South Africa, Alfie Cox, on his KTM. He conquered the mountain and a legend was born.
Zum erfreulichen Teil. Alfie Cox auf KTM 250 gewinnt die Erzberg Offroad Challenge souverän mit einem Vorsprung von 17 Minuten. Seine Gesamtfahrzeit betrug 48 Minuten.
It's nice to have a speedy race before you're going to have a hard enduro on the next day. It's very nice to have you here, Alfie. Alfie Cox, Südafrika.
But no one could have predicted what happened next. The story of that first race spread like wildfire through the motorcycle world. In its second year, the number of competitors more than doubled. 250 riders showed up, then 500, then 1,000. Today, the event consistently draws over 1,500 competitors from more than 40 nations. They're joined by tens of thousands of spectators who turn the base of the mountain into a 4-day festival of extreme sport. Karl Katok's ride in the woods had created a monster. A beautiful, brutal, economic force for the entire Eisenerz region. To understand how that monster devours nearly every rider it meets, you have to see how the race actually works. So, what makes this race so impossible? Why do over 97% of the riders fail? It starts with a brutal selection process. The journey to the main event is a gauntlet in itself. It all begins with the Iron Road Prologue. Held on Friday and Saturday, this is a high-speed dash, a 13-kilometer blast up a gravel road that snakes toward the summit of the Iron Giant. This isn't the technical nightmare of the main race. This is a flat-out speed test, and it's the only way you earn your ticket to the big show. The top 500 riders from the 1,500 entrants qualify. Everyone else goes home. The prologue is a wild, diverse event. You'll see everything from full race bikes to scooters and even quads, racing against the clock and gravity alike. They're all dispatched at 20-second intervals, creating a constant, roaring procession towards the summit. The pressure is immense. One mistake, one slow section, and your dream of racing on Sunday is over. But before the prologue even begins, the party starts on Thursday with a side event called the Rocket Ride. Introduced in 2009, this is a pure spectacle. Over 300 riders attempt to conquer a massive 4-story tall steep section of the mountain. The goal is simple: hold the throttle wide open and get to the top the fastest. The top 48 qualifiers then face off in a knockout system. It's a good, short, explosive burst of exactly the kind of challenge that defines Erzberg. A good taste of the madness to come. Then comes Sunday, noon. The air's thick with anticipation and the smell of pre-mixed fuel. The Elite 500 who survived the prologue line up at the base of the quarry. This is the Red Bull Hare Scramble, the main event, the grand finale. When the start flag drops, waves of 50 riders are unleashed at a time. The front row, earned by the fastest prologue times, is the most coveted piece of real estate in motorcycle racing.
It's Chris Gunderman.
They have 4 hours, just 240 minutes. Their task is to complete a 35-kilometer course. This is not a loop. This is a point-to-point assault on the mountain. And the course is redesigned every single year. They create new, diabolical sections to surprise even the veterans. The riders have to pass through 23 checkpoints. Miss one, and you're disqualified. The finish rate is famously, staggeringly low. In 1999, a record 51 riders finished. That record still stands. In 2025, only 14 made it. In 2015, a mere 5 riders saw the checkered flag within the time limit. This isn't a race that you win. This is a race you survive. The ultimate prize for this inhuman effort isn't money. It's a trophy carved from a piece of the Iron Giant itself. A rock. A symbol of the willpower it takes to conquer the unconquerable. You're probably asking, what could possibly be that difficult? Let's talk about the terrain. Erzberg isn't a natural mountain trail. It's an active iron ore quarry. The ground is loose, sharp, and unpredictable. The slopes are incredibly steep and notoriously slippery. Your bike is constantly scrambling for traction on shale and loose rock. One wrong move and you're sliding backwards, sending a cascade of rocks down on the riders below you. Then there's the sections. Specific parts of the course that have earned legendary and even feared names. There's Carl's Diner. This is the definitive Erzberg section. A vast, exhausting crawl over a field of massive boulders. These are mining remnants, some as big as cars. It's a trial section that seems to go on forever. It pushes a rider's strength, skill, and mental endurance to the absolute breaking point. There's Dynamite, a steep, explosive climb that demands perfect precision and power. There's Machine, a technical maze of rock formations that requires absolute focus. And there's the Bathtub. Located at a huge ore washing basin, this involves a near vertical descent, followed by an equally steep, muddy climb out. In 2015, they introduced a new section called Downtown. It was designed to be impassable. It forced riders down into a deep ravine. Then they had to climb a ridiculously steep, muddy hill.
That everywhere else is dry and dusty, but here in downtown, it's basically a stream, and no rider has ever taken a motorcycle up here. Carl has designed this just by walking it, and now the riders are seeing it for the first time, but our new leader, Jarvis, is struggling in downtown.
This section will create one of the most iconic moments in the race's history, but we'll get to that soon. The mountain is only half the battle. The alpine weather in Erzberg is a wild card. You can start the race in blazing sunshine. An hour later, you could be battling hailstones or even snow. The mountain, made of metal-rich ore, is a lightning rod. The risk of a lightning strike is very real. In 2013, torrential rain turned the start line into a bike-drowning lake. The elements are an active, hostile participant in this event. This combination of extreme terrain and unpredictable weather creates a profound psychological battle. Mental fortitude becomes as important as physical skill. You're exhausted. You're battered. You know the statistics. You know that most of you won't make it. Pushing through that doubt, staying calm when your bike is stuck on a rock, and maintaining focus for 4 hours is what separates the finishers from the rest. The rider at Erzberg is a different breed. This is not a sport for specialists. It demands a complete athlete. Physically, you need the cardiovascular endurance of a marathon runner. You need the raw strength of a weightlifter to manhandle a 230-pound bike over obstacles. You need the balance and precision of a trials rider to pick your way through rock gardens. And you need the agility to jump on and off the bike dozens of times, but muscles alone don't win here. Mindset does. This race is a psychological marathon. You have to push through pain. You have to stay calm under extreme pressure. You have to make split-second decisions while your body is screaming at you to stop. The interdependency of mind and body is absolute. One can't succeed without the other. The bikes at Erzberg aren't stock motocross machines. They're built for punishment. Stripped down, re-geared, and tuned for torque, not speed. Suspension is softer and more forgiving. Built to find traction through rocks and roots instead of soaking up triples. Soft compound tires claw for grip, usually stuffed with mousses because tubes wouldn't last a mile. Everything on these bikes has one job: survive the mountain. The engines are tuned for low-end torque and control, not top speed. The most common bikes you'll see battling the Iron Giant are two-strokes like the KTM 300 XCW and the Husqvarna TE 300. Their lightweight and aggressive power delivery are ideal for the steep, technical climbs. The constant innovation driven by Erzberg's demands has pushed manufacturers to build tougher, more capable machines, benefiting the entire sport. Preparation for this race is a year-round obsession. Riders train by simulating race conditions, long-distance running and cycling for cardio, intense strength training for the core, legs, and arms. Many practice on trials bikes to hone their balance and technical skills, but beyond the physical, they train their minds. They develop strategies for maintaining focus, for pushing through the wall of fatigue. They know that at Erzberg, the race is won or lost between the ears. Over 3 decades, the Erzberg Rodeo has created its own pantheon of gods, riders who've tamed the Iron Giant not once, but multiple times. In the early years, German rider Christian Pfeiffer set a high bar.
Christian Pfeiffer stürmt in Rekordzeit die 12 Kontrollstempel und gibt ihn.
He won the hare scramble 4 times, 1996, 1997, 2000, and 2004. He became a legend, proving that consistency on this mountain was possible. Then came a dominant force from Poland, Tadej Błaszczyk. He exploded onto the scene in 2007 and went on a rampage. He won 5 consecutive races from 2007 to 2011.
Triumphe, als ob die Semmel fährt.
His calm demeanor and sheer skill made him nearly unbeatable. He became synonymous with Erzberg excellence. The United Kingdom produced its own heroes. David Knight won back-to-back in 2005 and 2006. When Knight's dominance faded, a new chapter began, ushering in the era of Graham Jarvis and Johnny Walker. Jarvis, a master of technical terrain, would eventually tie Taddy's record with 5 wins of his own. Walker, a dynamic and powerful rider, would take 3 victories. Spain's Alfredo Gomez also etched his name into the history books with 2 hard-fought wins. But in recent years, a new king has emerged, Manuel Littenbichler from Germany. Letty is a product of Erzberg royalty. His father, Andreas Littenbichler, was a podium finisher and a legend in his own right. Letty grew up around this race. In 2014, at just 16 years old, he became the youngest rider to ever finish the hare scramble. It was a sign of things to come. In 2022, at 24, he became the youngest winner in history, and he just hasn't stopped. He won again in 2023, 2024, and 2025. 4 consecutive victories, establishing a dominance we haven't seen since the days of Tadej Błaszczyk. His story represents the evolution of the sport, a new generation raised on extreme enduro, pushing the limits of what's possible on a dirt bike. KTM has been the most successful manufacturer by a huge margin, with over 20 victories. Their orange machines have become a constant on the Erzberg podium. Some races are defined by a single winner. Others are defined by a moment that captures the spirit of the entire sport. The 2015 hare scramble gave us one of those moments. Remember that new section I mentioned downtown? The impassable hill? The race had taken a dramatic turn. Johnny Walker was leading, looking strong, but then, disaster. His bike's radiator was damaged. It started overheating, costing him precious time and power. Graham Jarvis passed him, then Alfredo Gomez passed him. Walker was stuck, letting his bike cool down, his chances of victory slipping away.
A dejected Johnny Walker watched on helplessly.
By the time Walker got moving again, he arrived at the base of the new downtown section. And who did he find there? Graham Jarvis and Alfredo Gomez. They were also stuck. The hill was brutally steep, slick with mud, and almost impossible to climb. Shortly after, Andreas Littenbichler arrived. The 4 of them, 4 of the best riders in the world, were all defeated by this one hill. But then, something amazing happened. Instead of fighting each other, they started working together. They banded together. They helped each other pull their bikes up the treacherous slope.
They are helping each other out, this unseen terrain.
One rider would claw his way up a few feet, then turn around to help the next. It was a display of pure sportsmanship, a moment where the shared struggle outweighed the individual competition. After a monumental effort, all 4 riders reached the top, but they only had about 20 minutes left to finish the race. They rode the final sections together, coasting across the finish line in quick succession to share the podium. It wasn't a single winner, it was a victory for the spirit of hard enduro. This moment exemplifies the unique camaraderie that exists in this sport, a core value that draws riders back year after year. They compete fiercely, but they also understand that they're all facing the same impossible mountain. The Erzberg Rodeo has exploded into a global phenomenon. Its impact stretches far beyond the quarry and Eisenerz. It's the definitive benchmark for extreme enduro. When you win here, you've proven yourself against the toughest standard in the world. The race's growth mirrored the rise of hard enduro itself. In 2018, it joined the World Enduro Super Series, a global showcase for the toughest off-road events on the planet. By 2022, it became an official round of the FIM Hard Enduro World Championship, marking the sport's leap from grassroots to globally recognized discipline. But after a couple years under the FIM banner, Erzberg stepped away to reclaim its independence. For 2026, it's set to team up with Red Bull Romaniacs to launch a new collaborative format, linking 2 of the toughest races on Earth under one extreme enduro banner. The Iron Giant may have stepped away from the championship tour, but it remains the benchmark every rider measures themselves against. The event is a major economic engine for the Eisenerz region. It brings in millions of euros, hotels are booked solid, restaurants and shops thrive. The event now costs several million euros to organize, showing just how critical sponsorships and long-term partnerships are to its survival. Its global reach is undeniable. Broadcast to millions in over 100 countries, Erzberg's coverage spans every platform, from live global TV feeds to viral clips online, tuning the Iron Giant into hard enduro's main stage. This exposure acts as a gateway. It introduces countless new fans to the thrilling world of hard enduro. Looking to the future, the sport is in good hands. Over 60% of the participants at Erzberg are under 30 years old. The interest among younger riders is skyrocketing. A new generation is charging in, faster, fitter, and more fearless than ever. The future of hard enduro isn't just secure, it's already on the throttle. What's it like to be there, to witness this madness in person? For the tens of thousands of fans who make the pilgrimage, the Erzberg Rodeo is a 4-day festival. It's an immersion in adrenaline and celebration. The atmosphere is electric. The legendary beer tent is the pulsing heart of the party. It offers food, drinks, and late-night celebrations where fans can actually mingle with the top riders. There's a unique tradition called the Raid on Eisenerz. On Saturday evening, thousands of dirt bikes parade into the host town. The riders and fans party with the locals, turning the streets into a massive, roaring block party. There are side events like freestyle motocross shows. There are even jet ski freestyle displays on the lake at the base of the mountain. For spectators, the access is unparalleled. You can walk through the pro pit area and rider village. You can see the teams working frantically to prepare the bikes. You can see the unique camping culture with impromptu hot tubs and mini beer tents set up by fans. The event is designed for spectators. Free shuttle buses transport you to the best viewing points around the mountain. You can stand at the Erzberg Rodeo Arena at the foot of the mountain with grandstands and giant video walls. Or you can hike to spots with names like the Brecker, the Bohrerschmiede, or the Wasserleitung. These are eye-popping parts of the track where you can watch the world's best riders battle for position on near impossible climbs. For a truly unique view, you can take a helicopter ride over the mining area, or you can take a tour on one of the massive 860 horsepower mining trucks. You get an up-close look at the industrial landscape that creates this unique challenge. The local cuisine is hearty: pizza, pretzels, and plenty of beer. You have to be ready for the weather. It can be sunny and hot one minute and cold with hail the next. But that's all part of the experience, the shared struggle in the beer tent, the collective gasp when a rider conquers a difficult section. It creates a sense of community, a shared pilgrimage for everyone who loves this sport. For 30 years, the Iron Giant has stood as the ultimate test. It's humbled the proud, it's broken the strong, and it's forged legends. The race has evolved from Karl Katak's simple ride into a cornerstone of world motorsport, but its soul remains the same. It's still about that unsolvable task. It's still about the raw, unscripted battle between human spirit in an unforgiving mountain. The multi-stage format ensures only the most complete riders even get a chance. The lack of prize money means the motivation is pure. Riders aren't here for a paycheck. They come for the rock, for the myth, to find out if they still have what it takes. The consistently low finish rate transforms simply completing the race into a mythical achievement. It's a badge of honor that very few can claim. This pursuit of personal accomplishment, more than any trophy, is what defines the Erzberg Rodeo, and it's why riders come back year after year. The Red Bull Erzberg Rodeo is more than a race. It's a festival, a benchmark, a legend. It's the story of a mountain that dares you to conquer it, and the men and women who are crazy enough to try. From Alfie Cox in 1995 to Manuel Lettenbichler in 2025, the story continues. New chapters are written every year, new legends are born, new riders arrive, looking up at the Iron Giant, wondering if they have what it takes. What do you think? Does this sound like the toughest race on the planet to you? Who's your favorite Erzberg legend? Let us know in the comments below. Watch the next one. It's another story of chaos, courage, and the will to keep going when everyone else quits. Thanks for watching, and stay wicked.